my guest today, the new love doctor, the new, wearing that mantle well, Vaynard Jacobs from Family Life. Welcome to the Rhema studio.
Kia ora, Andrew. Good to be here in person. In
Yeah.
fact, I was sort of over the whole phone interview thing.
You're all zoomed out as well?
All zoomed out.
Yeah, no, hey, and fantastic to be able to kick off this concept of being able to offer advice on love and relationships, and so much need out there, so many people looking for answers, so many people saying, well, my marriage is okay, but I'd like it to be better. I don't want to take this for granted. That's perhaps another lesson we've learned during lockdown, right?
Yeah, I think we learned heaps about ourselves and about our significant others during lockdown.
Something that you guys have been doing at Family Life, I noticed on your website, starting a podcast. Now, honestly, that's been on my to-do list. I really must get around to that for some time, but hey, you've beaten me to it.
Oh, well.
This is
You're on air every day, so...
Well, exactly. I suppose I've got another outlet. But a wonderful way of getting some of this wisdom and advice out there to people. What's that process been like for you and the team?
Oh, yeah, look, as you know, Family Life was originally from the US, and those who would have been to a Weekend to Remember, say maybe 10 or more years ago, would have seen the US speakers and the US content. Over the years, however, we've found that the New Zealand audience relates better to a New Zealand crowd, and so we actually have a couple speakers from New Zealand on stage at our weekends now. That being said, the Family Life Today podcast, that's the US podcast. I think that's aired on Radio Rhema
it is,
for a while. I'm not sure if it's still running.
It's still going,
It's still going. But again, that's the American version. And so the Family Life New Zealand podcast, we're now 3 episodes in.
Yeah.
And that's, again, sharing New Zealand stories and sharing the conversation. We're hoping to reach homes across this beautiful country. Maybe there are some people that weren't able to attend a weekend. Maybe they want to check us out, or maybe they just want to get some follow-up content and keep building into their marriage. So the podcast is up. That's available at Family Life New Zealand podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts, or just on the website familylife.nz/podcast. So 3 episodes in, 4th one has been recorded, releasing in 2 weeks. So we're releasing every 3 weeks now. So building some momentum.
Wow, that's very good indeed. Exciting. I just spotted it on the website and thought I'd have to ask. Haven't had a chance to check it out myself, but certainly looking forward to that. Now, also, we've had a good response from people who are contacting us with questions about love and relationships, and a very tricky question today, and it's one which actually, I know people who are in this situation. It is a very difficult one indeed. I'll read the question today. My wife and I married young. We are both now in our 30s, and while I'm still happy in our choice, my wife feels like she missed out on her youth. She keeps telling me that if it weren't for getting married, she would have gone overseas to do an OE or worked on her career. Most of our friends have done the opposite to us and are now only just settling down. In response to her disappointment, my wife has been going out a lot with younger workmates partying. I don't know how to respond as she seems to be out to ruin our marriage. Please help.
Oh, that's a hard one, especially that ending. She seems to be out to ruin our marriage. I'd probably just take one step back, and I'd ask the question, hey, well, we actually have this in our Weekend to Remember. This whole cause of marriage can either go towards oneness, that's the goal of marriage, but if we don't intentionally work on it, there's a natural drift towards isolation.
Yeah.
There's this saying, marriage is not the cure for loneliness. And a lot of people think going into marriage will mean I won't be lonely.
Yeah.
But in fact, some of the most loneliest people out there are those that are in a committed relationship, but they're still experiencing that isolation.
Yeah.
So listening to this guest's question, I would say, well, what is it that maybe his wife feels like she's missing out on, that she needs to go and find elsewhere? So if you think about it, when the relationship first started, we were all interested, there was a lot of excitement, we were, trying to win each other over. We poured a lot of effort and energy into our relationship, but maybe as the years go by, we've just become used to being together. We become housemates. I would argue, or I would say maybe there's something to explore there. What is it that she might feel that she's not getting in the relationship that she needs to go and look elsewhere? Because the reality is, relationships, marriage can be a wonderful thing, all right? In fact, the benefits of marriage far outweigh the benefits of, having if I can use the word jowl outside and having fun. The fun that you have in a relationship far outweighs that fun, but it doesn't if you haven't worked on creating that relationship.
Now, I can empathize in this regard, because if it's certainly there should be some alarm bells ringing with what's happening there, and certainly for this particular person that writes the question, they seem to be very concerned. But there's a balance between going, gosh, it feels like my marriage is falling apart, and not just coming across as the jealous husband wanting to control every aspect of her social life.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that. It does definitely sound to me like there's a disconnect.
Yep.
And whenever there's a disconnect, then I would say, well, how many Dr. John Gottman actually talks about bids for connection.
Yep.
So couples constantly sending out bids for connection. You'd mention a need, or you'd say something, and if your partner responds to that, then connection is formed.
Yes.
So there's obviously been a lot of bids for connection that may have been put out in the relationship that haven't been met. And so there's a bit of a disconnect there. I'd often encourage working with a professional, finding someone that works with you, and you don't have to go to one counselor. Try a few until you find that person that really works well with you. But basically, this couple needs to look at their connection, do a health check, do some type of analysis. Hey, what's really missing for you here?
It also sounds a little bit like, and look, not wanting to speculate too much, but it sounds a little bit like the regret that the wife seems to be communicating here, the regret that she missed out on all these opportunities. It would be easy for somebody to interpret that as rejection. Or you regret that you got married to me, therefore that means that you wish that we hadn't got married, and that can spiral quite quickly.
So here's an interesting thing on that regret. So, I see a lot of beautiful women. There's nothing wrong with my eyesight. I can see a beautiful woman, but that doesn't change the way I feel about my wife. Okay, I don't regret that I married Al Ray whenever I see another beautiful woman. Okay, because I've chosen Al Ray, and I've chosen to cultivate a relationship with her. Now, the benefits I get out of our marriage, out of building a marriage where there's oneness, where there's that togetherness, where you get to know and be known, that far outweighs anything that we could look through the eyes of regret. So I would focus on building that I guess togetherness in marriage, and then all the other things would fade away. The regret is probably just an excuse to something deeper that's going on.
And the other thing to me, which I suppose I'm questioning, the wife's always going out with younger workmates. Why is the husband staying at home? Why not go out? Why are you isolating yourself from your wife in some ways? Why not find opportunities to go out together more often?
Well, probably she's trying to send a message. And he's obviously picked up something's happening. So in some sense, her message is being effective.
Exactly,
But maybe they don't have the tools right now to know how to deal with this well. But clearly there's this sense of excitement that she's not getting from her marriage. Because maybe we've just become so accustomed. We've started taking each other for granted. I know that happens with where I'm at. We've got a 15-month or 16-month-old at home, and life is busy. It's so easy to take each other for granted. And if we don't constantly check in on that and make each other a priority, it won't be long before we've reached that place of isolation.
No, some very good wisdom and advice indeed, and certainly hope that this has been helpful to the person who wrote this question and to other people who may be in similar situations as well. Now, for people listening to this who wanted to find out more, familylife.org.nz is, of course, the website to go to, and if you have any questions for the Family Life team, you can contact us here, either texting 8168, start with the first word Rhema, or email days@rhema.co.nz. Van, wonderful to have you as a guest in the studio. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.